I mean, it's just fascinating to me because I think back to when Hertz announced that they were going to buy a ton of Teslas. This was 2021. We were still in kind of, the meme stock, era. It was very clearly, to me, it seemed like a play on the part of, a just bankrupt Hertz to really generate interest in the company and interest in their strategy going forward. And it made Tesla a $1 trillion company. And, it was soon thereafter that, it was about a year ago now that, we saw in the regulatory filings that Hertz was actually buying a whole lot fewer Teslas than they initially announced, and even falling well short of their plans for the number of Teslas that they were going to purchase. They've really sort of taken a bath on those purchases. It can't help that Elon Musk has cut price so much, and that's got to be a big factor here.
Craig, unfair to you, but let's try to go there. What's a new Tesla cost? What's a used Tesla cost now? And what's it going to cost in 90 days?
Yeah, I think if we think about, the cheapest Tesla you can get your hands on, right, a Model 3. I mean, this is a car that, was supposed to, out of the gate, cost $35,000. The company is now fairly close to that in terms of, how much you can pay for a new one. And that moved down dramatically last year. This is a company that, just repeatedly was cutting price to try and, keep growth going. It was effective in helping the company to continue to increase volume, but they really took it on the chin in terms of margin, and it really burned Hertz. And over here in Europe as well, you've heard rental companies gripe about what the price cuts have done from a depreciation standpoint for their fleet. On a
$35,000 value, then what's that used car going to be in 90 days?
We're seeing the 90-day question is a little bit tricky to answer, but I will say that one of the things that we saw, just as Hertz has started to list these cars on its website, is that you can, get your hands on one for like $16,000, and so this is pretty substantial depreciation for a company that only was buying, Teslas just in the last couple of years.
Craig, I want your view on this. Tom and I have been talking about it over the last hour or so, ever since this news came out, but I think it's been a topic of conversation now for months. This is another reality check. When you speak to the manufacturers, the big automakers in this country, they talk about a change of execution, not ultimate strategy. I think they all agree on the ultimate destination, the objectives of this administration and how it's going to support them. At what point do we start to question the ultimate destination? Where is this industry going?
I think if we take a step back and think about this from a global perspective, we're not necessarily seeing this, sort of disastrous result in China or over here in Europe. So I do think that this is a bit of a U.S.-specific phenomenon where you've had a really dominant player in Tesla that was pushing for years, and maybe the fact that they pushed on a string to some degree in the U.S. just in the last year and a half or so, and we've seen this really sort of cyclical change in the auto industry, which we've seen over a long period where you see companies kind of boom and bust quickly. The question is whether or not this is a U.S. specific and Tesla driven phenomenon. It seems to be the case that this company that's been very successful maybe got over its skis to some degree, and the rental companies are taking it on the chin.
Pabst Blue Ribbon ago, John Farrell had a blistering conversation with Mary Barra. How did GM and Ford react to today's bombshell announcement? John, what's a pickup truck cost? Like $150,000?
Well, an F-150 Lightning.
Yeah, whatever.
If you deck it out, it's going to be pretty expensive.
Craig, why can't we make a $38,000 GM whatever to compete with the Elon Musk company?
I think the fact that Musk has been at this for so long, we're seeing, to use his phrase, production hell on the part of GM and Ford, where, these are companies that have a long history of making combustion engine cars. They don't have nearly as long a history, of course, making electric vehicles. And they and their battery partners are really struggling to scale up the way that we saw Tesla have challenges with the Model 3 years back. And so you've seen Tesla jump out to this big lead, it's been a long slog to bring costs down. We've seen, similarly in China, a ton of investment, a lot of losses, a lot of, negative headlines for many years for some of the companies in China, where, we've seen Tesla and BYD really emerge as the very clear 1 and 2, but it hasn't been a sort of, clean story of all as well.